took it in turns to make half-hourly checks on each other's children. Two of the group, Matthew Oldfield and Jane Tanner, both crucial witnesses, have returned to help Dave Edgar with the reconstructions. It's believed that Madeleine was taken shortly after her father's check at 9 o'clock. In the 45 minutes that followed, there were two significant sightings of a man carrying a young girl. The first was by Jane Tanner.
I'd got a big jumper on, and I can remember thinking, oh, that parent's not a particularly good parent, they've not wrapped them up. It's actually quite cold.
In your sketch, he appears to be carrying the child in a sort of unusual way.
Yeah, I was carrying sort of across the body like that. I suppose in hindsight you probably think somebody would carry them more against the shoulder.
When she was asked about the route of Gerry McCann to his home when he went to check on his children, she relates that she does not know, but that she knows that he, at times, accessed the home by the glass lounge door, also known as the patio door, which was only closed but not locked. She explains that this was the easiest and fastest way to enter the McCann apartment, as they have a stairway up to the veranda, which is next to the pavement, saving thereby half the distance of the route. Questioned, she relates that all the couples had to access their respective apartments by the front door, except the McCanns, since they were the only ones who left the glass door unlocked. When asked if she checked the state of the windows and external blinds of the McCann children's bedroom when she went to her house, she relates that no, she did not look in that direction, hence they might already have been open without her having noticed. After having gone to see her children, she returned to the restaurant. On her return, Gerry was no longer talking where she had seen him talking to Wilkins. When she arrived at the restaurant, Gerry was already seated at the table, accompanied by his wife Katie and all the others. Between 15 to 20 minutes later, her husband Russell and Matthew Oldfield left together and went to see their respective children. As her younger daughter was restless and crying, Russell stayed in the bedroom. Meanwhile, Matthew went to check his children and those of Gerry and Katie McCann. According to what he said, he saw the twins, but he did not see Madeleine, probably because he did not enter the bedroom. As he heard no noise, he left presupposing that all was well, returning to the restaurant. Matthew told her that Russell had to stay back at the apartment due to one of their kids not feeling too well. After having quickly eaten the main course, she went to the apartment to take the place of her husband so that he could finish his meal. Her husband returned to the restaurant. Sometime later, she didn't know precisely how long, she looked through the lounge window towards the restaurant area, ascertaining, strangely, that there was no one seated at the table, it being that it was still very early for all of them to have already finished the meal. Later, she heard voices of Katie and Fiona Payne, who were in the corridor in front of the bedroom windows and who called desperately for Madeleine. When she saw her, it was Katie herself who told her that Madeleine had disappeared, not clarifying in what circumstances. Continuing her search, she had to stay in her apartment because her daughters were asleep. As it was asked of her, she relates that she did not go into the McCann apartment, therefore she does not know the state of the bedroom nor any details of what happened that night. Now, already she had heard many versions or theories of what could have happened, but, for her part, she can only affirm that the man that she saw carrying the child was, in her belief, associated with the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. She was then confronted with the fact that when her husband Russell O'Brien and Matthew Oldfield went to check their respective children, the window already might have been open and Madeleine was probably no longer in her bed. She clarifies that she cannot answer for them, but thinks that Matthew Oldfield had not entered the McCann children's bedroom, limiting himself to hear that there was no crying, and that the twins were in their beds. Asked if he couldn't have checked for noise at the bedroom window, as had been done many times, she clarifies that Matthew had assured the parents that he would go to check the state of the children from inside the house. For this, he went up the pavement to the main entrance of the apartments, entered his house and turned to leave, descended the pavement again to the rear entrance of the McCann flat, climbed the steps and accessed the lounge through the glass door. That was not locked. Anyway, a better understanding of these details can only be provided by Matthew himself, she said. Confronted with the information that the tracker dog teams had followed the scent trails in which, purportedly, Madeleine had not passed the intersection where she indicated a man carried a child, she affirmed immediately that she was not lying. maintaining the honesty of her initial version, that indeed there had passed in front of her a man carrying in his arms a barefoot child. At the time, she had not paid him much attention because it is common at the Ocean Club for children to pass in the arms of their parents between the creche and their respective homes when they have collected them from the babysitting service. Only it was strange that the child had no cover or blanket, and the way the man walked rapidly and how he was dressed. The trousers were slightly wide and the entire length being straight. The trousers were, as to colour, identical to courtesine, a type of floor covering, chino, Chinese style. As for the coat, it was dark-coloured. She was not able to specify what, seeming to be the same material as the trousers, it being a type of anorak. As for the footwear, she relates that she cannot confirm with certainty, but they were shoes with a slight heel. About the description of the child, she confirmed that it was being carried in his arms, with the legs in her direction and barefoot. She thought that it was a female child because the pyjamas were a light colour, seemingly pink to her. She never saw the hair of the child. She never saw it move nor make any sound, thinking that she was asleep. Subsequently, she had no doubts that it could have been Madeleine because, through conversations with Fiona Payne, in which Fiona described the pyjamas that Madeleine had worn that night, which coincided with those she had seen, questioned why she had not commented to Katie what she had seen that night, namely that she had seen a male individual who carried a child with pink pyjamas. She relates that she always avoided making this comment to the McCanns so as not to torture them more in their suffering. She swore by everything most sacred that what she said is true, namely that she saw an individual with a child in his arms. Confronted, she demonstrated the distance at which the man with the child had passed her, and that was gauged to be about 5 meters. She accepts that, at that moment, although the event had called her attention, she didn't lay any great stress on it for the reasons already explained. Regarding the most and best information that might help the present investigation, she said she remembered one night. She thinks it was Tuesday, 1st of May. There were 2 couples, supposedly English, that dined in the Tapas restaurant. After their meal, they left, Jane Tanner not knowing if they participated in the quiz game that Mark Warner put on during the meal. The game consisted of a Mark Warner worker asking questions about films, namely quotations, with the objective of identifying the films. At the end, the tables were given a questionnaire that gave the source and a result. The first prize was a jug of sangria, curiously won by the Tapas 7 table. She remembered only that the agency lady commented on the 2 couples who had left the game before the final result was known. She never saw those couples before, nor since that day. She does not know if they were Mark Warner clients. Prompted to clarify which member of the group booked the first dinner at Tapas, she responded that she did not know. She clarifies that morning she played tennis with Kate going, at the end of the game, to the restaurant to make the booking. She recalls that when they arrived there, the booking was already made and she had not questioned who had made it. Asked if it would have been her companion Russell O'Brien who booked that meal, on his own initiative, she relates that it could have been done by any other person, but considers someone with an excessively organised disposition would have done it, something usual of her husband. On these holidays, she never met nor dined, along with the rest of the group, with any family or person having the surname Irwin. Other than Rachel Oldfield, as already stated previously, only on the first day, Saturday night, was there a group member, Matthew Oldfield, feeling indisposed and not having eaten dinner on Sunday. On Monday, he had recovered. She said she excised the taking of an oral swab as being irrelevant to the story. Still about the security procedures relating to the children, she clarifies that the Paynes were the only ones who never went to their apartment because they had, at the table, an intercom device of good quality and power that allowed them to hear any noise caused by their children. She adds that, from memory, it was the first time they had used the device on holidays, but it is a common procedure in their home, as she has seen for herself. Questioned, she reaffirms that she doesn't have any suspicion to put forward other than the individual referred to as carrying a child in his arms. She doesn't recall any detail or situation that might be related to the disappearance of small Madeleine. Asked, she relates that she does not recall any incident or argument between any of the couples or any of the group members individually, nor between them and any third parties. Until the disappearance of Madeleine, the holidays had been peaceful and fun, like all such other holidays of the group of friends. When asked to give his own statement, Matthew Oldfield says he has been on holiday in Portugal since April 28, 2007, and that he is staying at the Ocean Club in Praia da Luz, that he expects to return to England on Saturday, May 5, 2007, and that he has known Madeleine's parents for around 5 years, and that Madeleine was to turn 4 will be 4 days before her disappearance. He stated he was spending his holiday with Madeleine and her parents, that they had come as a group, and that this group is composed of 9 adults and 8 children. The adults are Diane, David, and Fiona, and their kids, Russell and Jane, along with their kids and his wife and their daughters, Gerry and Kate, and their kids respectively. He also stated that the idea of spending the holiday in Portugal came from the couple David and Fiona, and that it is they who reserved the accommodation. The reservation was made 4 or 5 months prior to their trip. Since they arrived in Portugal until the night she went missing, the days were all the same. In the morning, the group woke between 6:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. and they all went on foot to the Millennium, around 10 minutes from the complex. That only Madeleine's parents, Madeleine and the twins, had breakfast in their apartment due to the fact that they have 3 very small children. After breakfast, the children were left at the mini clubs of the complex. Madeleine and his kids do go to the mini club for their age, and the other children go to another club for younger children. At lunchtime, the habit was to meet up in one of the apartments occupied by the group to have lunch there with the children. In the afternoon, the children have a sleep in their respective apartments under the supervision of an adult. The other adults do sporting activities within the complex. After their afternoon sleep, the children return to the mini club. At around 4:45 p.m., the children eat at the Tapas restaurant inside the tourist complex. After eating, the children went to play in a playground in the complex, supervised by adults. At around 8 p.m., the children went to sleep, and at around 8:30 p.m., the adults went to dinner at the Tapas restaurant. While they were eating, the children were sleeping in their respective apartments without the constant supervision of an adult. He then adds that, as the restaurant is around 1 minute from the apartments, randomly, an adult would be going frequently to check on the children in the apartments. That, as part of the mini club activities, Madeleine will have gone to the beach, together with Ocean Club employees, not knowing how many times that had occurred. The rest of the activities were in the interior of the tourist complex. According to his statement, he states that the apartment occupied by the parents of Madeleine and their children was immediately before his. He also says that the day of her disappearance was identical to the previous ones, and that before it, and as on all other nights too, at around 8:45 p.m., he and his wife left their daughter asleep in the apartment and went to the Tapas restaurant. That the couple Kate and Gerry, Madeleine's parents, were already at the restaurant, and they had arrived at the restaurant 5 minutes before them. The rest of the adults arrived at the restaurant around 5 minutes after the interviewee and his wife. The last to arrive at the restaurant was the couple David and Fiona, that the latter arrived at the restaurant at around 9 p.m. At around 9:05 p.m., he went to the area of the apartments, notably to the area near the windows of all the children's bedrooms, that he did not hear any noise, and he considered that all the children were sleeping. He also noted that all the children's bedroom windows were closed, notably the windows that gave access to the bedroom occupied by Madeleine. After this check, he returned to the restaurant, saying that all the children were asleep. However, Gerry, Madeleine's father, went to the area of the apartments to check for himself if the children were asleep. Gerry would have entered into his apartment and checked to make sure that Madeleine and the twins were sleeping in their bedroom, where it was quite dark. The bedroom door was left ajar. 5 minutes later, Gerry came back to the group in the restaurant. In answer to a question from the inspector, he says that Gerry will have gone to check at that time because he will not have heard the witness say that he had been there. During the meal, it was usual that every 15 minutes, as in all some of the adults went to the apartments to check if the children were sleeping. That normally this checking was done inside the apartments known as visual checking, but that, to be honest, sometimes this checking was only done from the outside, near the bedroom windows, known as auditory checking. As normal, dinner began at 9:30 p.m. At around 9:25 p.m, he went into his apartment and Madeleine's apartment to check on the children. He states that the door of the bedroom that was occupied by Madeleine and the twins was open and that there was enough light in the bedroom for him to see the twins in their cots, that he couldn't see the bed occupied by Madeleine, but as it was all quiet, he deduced that she was sleeping, and also the light was not from an artificial source inside the apartment, but perhaps something coming from outside through the bedroom window. It seemed to him that the shutters of the master bedroom window were open without knowing if the window was also open. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, a lounge, a small kitchen and a bathroom. The couple's bedroom has a window which is visible from the restaurant. The children's bedroom windows look out on the road outside the tourist complex. Then after his checks, he went back to the restaurant. He states that the bedroom has 2 windows. The twins occupy 2 cots placed in the middle of the room, and Madeleine occupies a bed pushed against the wall, facing the wall which has the 2 windows that look out onto the outside of the complex. That the door through which he entered the apartment was closed, but not locked. He doesn't know if it is usual for Madeleine's parents to leave the door closed, but not locked, because that door is visible from the restaurant. At around 10 p.m, Kate, Madeleine's mother, went to her apartment to check on her children. She came back totally shocked, shouting, saying that Madeleine was no longer in her bedroom, they had taken her. At that time, all the adults were in the restaurant. Then, the whole group went to Madeleine's bedroom and checked that the twins were sleeping okay. There was no sign of a burglary in the apartment. Only one window in the children's bedroom was open. The window was open and the respective shutter, which is known as the external blinds. That, during the holiday, and notably during the day she disappeared and during dinner, nothing appeared unusual to the interviewee. That there wasn't the slightest change in the behavior of any of the group, notably in that of Kate or Gerry and their respective children. And also, there was nothing unusual, and he knew of nothing special happening. That the tourist complex was quiet, and that nothing unusual happened there. During the day, the children were under the supervision of the respective mini-club staff. He has no knowledge if Madeleine was suffering from any illness or if she was taking medication. Madeleine is very lively, obedient, communicative and extroverted. Madeleine's parents are both very friendly, communicative, happy and sensible. That the couple have an excellent relationship with their children, not making any difference in the treatment of each. And to end the interview, he stated that thinks it is a kidnapping with the intention to demand a ransom from the parents because these are people who are very comfortable financially. But if truly Gerry came back to the restaurant in less than 5 minutes if he left to check the children, then how was his pace in walking to and fro from the restaurant and back? Then let's not forget he stopped to talk to someone. Will you then agree all these happened within 5 minutes? Another question, if they could make a routine during the daytime that one parent must at least stay back with their respective kids in their apartment, then why should the night routine be different, considering the fact they are on a holiday in a foreign country? My last question, if Rachel Oldfield wasn't dining with them the night Madeleine disappeared and stayed back at her apartment, then why did Matthew Oldfield still went ahead to check on his kids when clearly, in their statements, they said Rachel was in her apartment? Apparently that means she should be with her kids. Then why the check from Matthew? Let me know your own thoughts on these testimonies as they have stated, and which accounts do you find more plausible, the Jane Tanners, Matthew Oldfield, or the Smiths family? Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Thanks for watching and see you in the next case.